It's time for us to take a look at our dailies, starting off with Daily Trust. Boldly there on the front page of Daily Trust, we have, the story we had in our discussion segment with Governor Zulum saying that Borno losing ground to terrorists. 3 local governments under Boko Haram control, says Shehu of Borno. Now on the top left, bandits kill 2, abduct 60 in Zamfara attacks. Now, still on Daily Trust, Tinubu's appointment violates constitution, says Ndumi. Alright, still away from that now, Shatima launches agro-processing industrial zone in Kaduna. And still on Daily Trust, Japa, 16,000 doctors left Nigeria in 5 years. That is quite a number. Patients stranded as staff shortage cripples services at FCT hospitals. And on the bottom, oil price drops to affect road construction, social intervention, and others. You find that on page 31. Those are the stories we have on the front page of Daily Trust. Do want to grab yourself a copy and keep yourself informed. All right, moving on now to Nigerian Tribune. Boldly on Tribune, Presidency Ndumi roll over loop-sided appointments claim. Tinubu appointment not reflecting federal character, says Ndumi. Your outburst reeks of hypocrisy, selective perception, says the presidency. We begin serialization of Ayo Adebanjo's book, Telling It As It Is on page 17. That's still on Tribune. Bandits have taken over 64 communities in Plateau, says Muftwang. Borno losing ground to Boko Haram, says Zulum. Rivers, court stop IBAS from appointing administrators in local government. Shetima inaugurates NISO board, signal new era in power sector reform. It's a significant milestone in ongoing power sector reform, says Beli. Ondo farmers and youth protest over alleged killing of farmers by suspected headsmen, and reps worry over food scarcity and rising prices. Begin probe of intervention fund to MDAs from 2017 to 2024. Those are the stories we have on Nigerian Tribune. Do well to grab yourself a copy and keep yourself informed. Now moving on. Let's take a look at Guardian. Punch. All right. Let's take a look at Punch. Boldly there in Punch, 11 PDP governors urge Supreme Court to halt Rivers emergency rule. Governors finally file suit as president. NAS gets 14 days to respond. And still on Borno, Zulum says military failing to repel insurgents. DHQ fires back. And now joining us via Zoom to review some of the headlines of today's paper, we have former Director of News, Voice of Nigeria, Ben Sherman. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning, Ben Sherman. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I can hear you.
All right. Governor Zulum is speaking up. He's saying that his state is losing ground to terrorists. In contrast to what the defense headquarters and the government is saying that they are putting in their best. But the governor is raising an alarm, saying that there's a resurgence. What's your take on that?
Well, the two of them, let me say they are in that state. The governor is in that state. And the military, they are also in that state operating. Also, for the political class, yes, they can always raise the alarm, of which the governor is doing. It's not the first time. When Shetima was there, he also raised the same alarm. Also, it's really not new. But what could be new is probably the reaction that people ought to get from the the entire political group, let me say the National Assembly and the Federal Executive, the soldiers ought to have the equipment that they should have. Are they having it as at when due? You also have to look at what you call a sectorial allocation. When you say the military has the highest allocation, it is on paper. What is on ground is different. It's just like the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health. When they said you have so number, that figure, does it actually translate to money? And even when the money is released, you still have to import some of these things. The equipment to fight the war. Also, yes, the military should be held, to ensure that they work the way they ought to. But the military being a quiet agency, they are not supposed to be so much engaging in terms of the information media or via the press. Sometimes if they were to speak the truth, you also be shocked as to what they are facing. So remember the late Labaja said, how many are soldiers in Nigeria? When you even add Navy, Air Force, the police, how many? And you look at the population of Nigeria, then you look at the challenges here and there. Is it Northwest? There has to be soldiers or security operatives. Is it the Southeast? Is it the South, Central Nigeria or Middle Belt? Or just name it. Then look at what is happening in Plateau. So all that people are saying, the military. They also have their challenges, I'm sorry to say.
All right, indeed, challenges persist, amongst all the facets. Now we're seeing that the presidency and Ndume are having, a back and forth, where Ndume is saying that the presidency's appointments are loop-sided and they are not reflecting the federal character. And the president is coming out to say that his position reeks of hypocrisy and selective perception. What do you make of this appointment? Based on merits or the federal character. What do you make of Ndume's stand vis-a-vis where the presidency is coming from?
Yes, the Constitution of Nigeria is very, very friendly to Nigerians. But when it comes to implementing what the Constitution says, that is where you have the problem. It says all federating units should be taken care of. Are they being taken care of? It's not the first time that Senator Ndume will talk about some lopsided kind of appointments, and he's always never the only one. The only thing is sometimes it takes some regional or tribal colorations. When Buhari was on ground, people were saying he was appointing people from his family, from Kano, from Katsina. So it was always the criticism from Southwest and Southeast. Then when Jonathan was there, it was still the same kind of a criticism. I still too remember when Obasanjo was on ground, his appointments, when you had many Igalas in that place, some Southern Kaduna being appointed, you find some people saying that Northerners were not represented. And you can see the definition of political Northerners. It starts from Kwara and it goes to Kogi, up to Borno and Sokoto, around that area, Benue. But when you appoint someone who is a minority from central Nigeria, they said, no, the North is not represented. So when Dume is also saying that the president is, his appointment is skewed to favor a certain part of the country, yes, if you go to the list, you virtually see that many of them are from the Southwest. But Senator Sani will come to say, look, the North is also having a very fine share. If you look at the security network, you're talking of the army, or you're talking about National Security Advisor, you're talking of the Minister of Defense, you're talking of the deputy. So the security itself, they're saying he's saying it's in the hands of the North. So Ndume has a right to say what he's saying. The presidency too, I think they shouldn't react grammatically, violently. I think that they should just explain, or you just keep quiet.
All right, let's touch a bit on health. We saw the minister coming out to say 16,000 doctors have left Nigeria in 5 years. And in line with that, we're seeing that patients were stranded as staff shortage cripples services at the FCT hospital. What do you make of this, and especially the state of our healthcare sector in Nigeria?
Well, if Nigeria has become the recruitment ground, this is the consequence. When some people came in from Saudi Arabia and they went to Sheraton, as it was then known, and people were going there to be enlisted or recruited, you find senior consultants going to queue with very young doctors just to japa. So that tells you internally is not well here in Nigeria. But when they do go out there, is it the best for them? Some will say yes. Some will say no, they will prefer to come back home. But we are waiting to actually see how come back home will be okay. Because if you really go to some hospitals, look, they look like some shadows. They will need to be stockpiled. Let me put it that way, with professionals, with doctors, with the nurses, because many aspects of the Nigerian body. I mean, a Nigerian, hardly do you find that a Nigerian is 100% healthy. So you find out that in general hospitals, people are generally trooping there. Unfortunately, the doctors are not where to be found. So a lot of training has to be done. But again, is it that people should, there was that proposal that people should the kind of after being trained, you must sign an agreement that before you leave the country, you have to spend about 5 or so years working for the Nigerian government. Is that policy tenable? Is it democratic? Is it allowed by the constitution? But can it help to stem the tide? When you're going to be trained in Nigeria, all you do is to disappear with your capabilities.
All right. Indeed, when it comes to the Japa syndrome, it tells a lot about, even the Nigerian dream. Is it now the Nigerian dream to stay and build a nation, or the Nigerian dream to build another man's nation? Let's get back to insecurity. Bandits kill 2 and abduct 60 in Zamfara attacks. And we're also seeing bandits having a field day in Plateau. What do you make of this?
Well, for the case of Zamfara, we are hearing that some of the kidnapped victims at the point are being used to do some mining. They do some mining. They are not just being kidnapped and held by the kidnappers. They are also used to do some mining in view of the endowment that is found in Zamfara. So these are things that the military should look out for. But when we also talk of the military, everybody is just talking about the military. What about the civil authority? It's a time that everybody should join their hands to ensure that it's done with. You come to Plateau, that the issue is just there. At the point people are just asleep, you just see an attack. One would have thought that the place has gone back to what it used to be, home of peace and tourism. But these killings are really just not the best. So the soldiers, the military, again, Operation Safe Haven, they have to be on top of their game. The indigents too, or whoever is in Plateau, the Plateau people will have to also come together with the military jointly doing some operations. And time has again come. There's this big delay when it comes to state establishing the state policies or policing agencies. And now when it reaches the local government level, we should be having community policing. We're already seeing that via what they call the vigilante groups. So if we make it formal, the constitution allows a tripartite kind of security agency when it comes to the lead agency, the police, maintaining internal security. So we have the federal police, we have the state police, then we have the local government police. It's therefore going to be a kind of a concurrent legislative list where everybody is involved.
All right, finally now to wrap up, let's touch a bit on Rivers State. We were saying that 11 PDP governors urged the Supreme Court to halt the state of emergency rule in Rivers State. We also saw saying that the court, halted the sole administrator trying to appoint local government administrators. What's your take on what is actually playing out now? There's calm in the news a bit, but we still find people kicking against the state of emergency rules and, having the National Assembly to reverse or look into it more. Now, what's your take of all of that?
Well, the Constitution allows the president to impose this emergency rule, but the interpretation has always been different. The way Obasanjo did it when Daria was removed and MC Mohammed was appointed sole administrator, that's a major general. The case with Jonathan, he declared state of emergency, he didn't remove any governor. So the case of Rivers is now what tinubu copied from Obasanjo and pasted it in Rivers State. So for the governors, PDP governors, to say reverse, well, it's for them to make some appeals. If I were them, I would not be fighting via the pages of newspapers. You adopt the alternative dispute resolution. Can it be done behind? What have they been able to do with Wike? What have they been able to do with Fobara? The lawmakers, we are told, even as Rivers is boiling, they are in London or something like that, enjoying in the name of trying to learn how to make laws abroad. So when the sole administrator came in, the sole administrator, look, was appointed under emergency situation, and if it was under emergency situation, he has to adopt what they call the emergency rule. He will have to have local government, maybe sole administrators, to assist him at that level. Is he going to also perform without some commissioners? Or, I mean, it's just the name, emergency. So if we don't run emergency in Nigeria, let's begin to practice democracy. When I see some people saying, look, declare more emergencies, will you want to declare emergency in Zamfara, declare in Sokoto, declare in Katsina? So, in other words, we're going back to a kind of military rule in a systematic and a very subtle way, which is not the best. Let's simply practice democracy, and that will be the best.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Ben Sheman, for always joining us for our newspaper review. Thank you so much for shedding light on our stories this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, to our listeners, I hope you've been able to pick something from the entire show this morning. I hope we've given you something to kickstart your day, keep you informed, and keep you up to speed with happenings in the country. Well, from the production crew, my name is Lilian Ogazi. Thanks for sticking around. Do well to keep yourself informed so that way you could hold the government accountable from an informed point of view. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye for now.